Hey guys, we're the Hard Time Shaman podcast, training up a better class of man. And today we are talking about drone warfare. We're going to dig into drones, why they're scary, and I don't know, man, why they're so important now and how to counteract them. But first, want to have a huge shout out to our patrons, Sven, Brandon, Ethan. Thank y'all for supporting the channel, keeping the lights on. Our hope starting in January is to have a monthly patron only episode where we dig into everything that's happening behind the scenes. Of course, we had our pre-show, early before we started recording this. We're going to have our post-show after the episode, and that's, obviously a episode occurrence every week, but we hope to get more in depth in our ongoing projects. So, talking about the nitty-gritty of like the book, of our PDF downloads, our guides, everything like that, everything that our patrons are going to see first, but getting in and getting their 2 cents and really digging into that, making that more of a personal experience. But thank you guys. And let's get rocking. Drones. So screw that. Just honestly.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate all of it.
Rock. Yeah. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've seen the footage coming out of Ukraine and even Russia now. It's weaponized first-person perspective drones. It's wild. It's terrifying. Just listening to that footage of just the buzzing from like dudes hiding in trenches as these things hunt them. And then they just hear this zzz, and then boom. Like that is a
just saw a video.
PTSD.
I just saw a video like today or yesterday. A dude that was in a bunker, he looked outside and there was a drone that had crashed. And it was just laying there right next to his position. And it's like, oh, dude. Like, I don't even know how many videos I've seen of dudes that are trying to hide in, like pillboxes or in trenches, and then like a drone follows them or just zings in there and explodes. Like, and that's my whole thing too, is what gets me really bad is that I remember when this was science fiction.
Yeah.
I remember when this was an idea, when this was just like, oh man, like, wouldn't this be crazy? Or like on Call of Duty or something, I'm just like, dude, there is no way. Like, this would be nuts. And then here we freaking are. Or like Ghost Recon, any of that stuff where it's just like, this is insane. Like, the absolute cutting edge. Like, this is insane. And now you can build these freaking things. You can order these off Amazon. Like, you can build these yourself in your garage.
Yeah, you can print these.
It's insanity, dude. It's scary. Wild. I mean, and you've seen all the crazy iterations, all the crazy videos, but we'll dig into that. But that's what gets me. Is just like, the future is now, old man. Like, we're freaking here. Yeah. Like, it's Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Like, they're not going away. Like you said, the war in Ukraine, right? We started seeing huge prevalence of drone warfare in Ukraine. And the thing is, that's going to be the standard now. Mm-hmm. Like, not even, what am I trying to say? Not even, like major superpowers or near peer threats. Like, this is so readily available. Like, any guerrilla anywhere can start putting this to bear, and it's a huge force multiplier. Like,
oh my god, yes,
it is bad.
Not to mention just the psychological warfare of hearing these things just buzzing around.
Oh yeah, dude.
And having one just like chasing you around a vehicle, toying with you.
Yes.
Like, oh my god.
Or I saw one where it was following this Russian dude, like 20 feet up in the air off to the side a little bit, and it just hung out there, didn't attack him or anything. You just saw the guy just like, his heart break. He's just like, I can't go back. Like, I can't bring this to my friends. I can't go anywhere. Like, I can't shoot this thing down. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
You know? Man, yeah, it's crazy. Because, I mean, we've seen so many iterations of this. And by drone, just so we have the same definition going throughout the episode, we're talking about unmanned or manned aerial vehicles. You know, a lot of time it's going to be quadcopters or, you know, fixed wing, but this is just aerial vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen so many iterations of this, whether it's, you know, I saw one where a guy was giving you know, some sort of demonstration of like a hunter killer one where it was about the size of his palm with however many ounces of explosives, and it, you know, just used facial tracking to just zip in at mock Jesus and blow the head off a dummy. You know, like you'd never see it, never hear it coming. Just boom, you're gone, lights out, nobody's home. We've seen it where they're, you know, like the crazy, like, you know, like this hyper fast first person drones that guys are doing like the trick videos with, and they're throwing explosives on those. We've seen where they'll do loitering munitions where hell, I saw one for like agriculture or
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yep.
industry, huge monstrous things, and then they would hook up to power lines to recharge. It had a clamp on the top of the unit. It would fly under there. It would just sit there and recharge, and then it would drop and fly off. I saw a freaking video today of one dragging a deer away.
Oh my God.
They hooked up the line and it flew away.
I didn't think they gotten that strong, but I mean,
Oh, they're
there's only
huge,
a matter of
dude.
time, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, the quadcopters aren't just small; like they get massive.
Yeah, I have seen ones that have like 6 or 8 rotors on them, so they can lift a lot of weight.
Dude, it's bad. Like, and think about, so like we started seeing, what was it, the Marines that were starting to run with that you know, the dog. I think it was the dog, and then there was one that was like, it was like almost a really super small striker. It was big enough for like one dude that could lay on it, but it was just their mule, and they carried however many hundreds of pounds, and it just followed them around. Like, so
Yeah.
imagine what we
It
can
was
do
literally
with.
called the mule.
Okay, lit. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But imagine what we can do with drones now. Like, you can give
Yeah.
it any 17-year-old PlayStation controller and he can fly that thing around, no sweat. Like,
Dude, I think that's where the evolution of drone warfare is going to go. Is it can be a 10-year-old, it can be an 8-year-old flying these things. They are so proficient at doing this stuff.
and you know what's sad? And like, obviously we're not getting, I'm not scared to get political on the podcast, but this isn't what I mean. I'm spitballing here. I can almost guarantee that's what's happening in Ukraine right now.
Oh yeah.
We saw, and we talked about even on the podcast, like when they were like, then the Ukrainians were getting ready for the invasion, they were getting everybody out with AKs, like the army training up everybody. I guarantee some IT unit was going to all these kids and be like, hey, here's 10 drones, here's how to launch it, you know, and like they picked it up like nobody's business, because you throw the explosive on that and the kid doesn't have to get in harm's way. And you have however, you know, whatever distance away from the drone the kid can get to. I mean, but it's too easy. You know, it's essentially expendable soldiers.
Yes.
And imagine a grenade flying in Mach Jesus. You'll never freaking see it, never hear it. And you know, how scary is that, dude? It's insane. I remember when we got that brief on Tower Guard, when they gave us a little laminated sheet, and it was like, by the way, it's about the size of you know, whatever, a volleyball. Be anywhere, and
yep,
good luck. Keep an eye out. Land. I was just looking at literally 180 degrees, as high as the sky, down on the ground. It's like, I'll never see that. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Best of luck. Break out the shotguns.
yeah. I was gonna say we can break that out in the, you know, in the countering drones part of the episode, but yeah, shotguns are definitely coming back. 1000%. And they're coming back in a big way, either master keys or you know, something like the Shockwave, where it's just this tiny little package.
Yeah.
Yeah, throw birdshot in that and have at it, dude.
Oh God, yes. But as much as we've seen this as of late and where we think it's going to go, um, it's definitely important to know where it's come from because a lot of people think that the first evolution of UAVs was the Predator, the Reaper,
Mm.
the, those kind of drones. No, like no, there have been UAVs since World War One. Not even joking. So the British had one. It was called the aerial target. It was just a small radio controlled aircraft. The Americans had an aerial torpedo. It was called the Kettering Bug.
What?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my goodness.
They never ended up using them operationally, but we had them and then we were testing them as early as uh 1917.
Hmm. You
So,
hear about the pigeons?
mhm.
You ever read
Yep.
up on that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And then
Strapping explosives to
the-
carrier pigeons, have them go after enemy naval vessels.
and then we had the bat bombs back
That
in World War
them
II.
those were freaky.
Those were terrifying. Um, let's see. So it's kind of evolved from that because I mean, obviously, the first reconnaissance units were dudes that were in like hot air balloons, biplanes, just flying around up there. Eventually, that's where it got into um, aerial combat and aerial bombing because eventually they gave them like mortars to drop on the battlefield and even machine guns to shoot at each other while they were up there. So that obviously evolved over time into stuff like the Zero, the P-51, eventually the F-22, the next gen fighters, and eventually we ended up with the Predator, the Reaper, the Raven. That's an unarmed one, and now we've gotten to the point of where we're at in Ukraine, which is these toys being strapped with explosives and just God producing just a ridiculous form of PTSD that no one saw coming.
Well, and I think something else is, involving the civilian population in it, right? Because I've
Mhm.
seen so many videos of guys like testing different release mechanisms that they 3D printed for these drones for the war effort. And these guys are not connected to the military at all. They're just nerds with a computer.
Right.
And, obviously not the first time this has happened, but just on such a scale with something like, even with everything going on, right? The United States is so prosperous. Anybody can buy a 3D printer and anybody can order a $100 drone off Amazon.
Yeah.
Like,
The hard part now is just getting all of the explosives. And then how the hell do you test it?
and
Like,
that's not even hard. Like, it's not even hard anymore. That's the scary part. But then, yeah, like I was hanging out with a buddy, Jay. He was flying a drone. He's like, yeah, I was following you while you came in, like while I drove in from the highway. And like I walk up on his porch, and then we're hanging out, and then I hear the little. I look up, 80 feet high, just comes down, sits down right in front of me. And it's like I never heard you, never heard it, even while I was walking up. He had eyes on me the entire time. And it's like, dude, screw this. Like, it's hard enough to have solid situational awareness to see people while you're bebopping around, right? If you're not trained up on it. How the hell are you going to see something the size of a friggin' softball, even, or a soccer ball,
well,
in through brush, through fog, like up in the air where you're not looking? I mean, just yeah, it's so much.
Yeah. And I can remember being in Afghanistan and you could audibly hear the UAV like loitering above you. Like it didn't take long to spot it once you heard it, but it's now, I mean, my God, you almost don't even hear these things.
They're so small. They're so small
And
now.
it's
Like,
and it
and
just comes
like I've
it comes
seen
down to
like
battery life.
farmers, and that's what I'm
Yep.
saying. Like, it's so prevalent now. It's not a niche thing. It's not just military milsim or LEO. Like, there's farmers that have drones hooked up with thermal so they can check up on their crops or their
Oh, yeah.
livestock or
Yeah, their livestock.
whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, when we went to your
Yeah.
bachelor party, you'd have one just in your backpack,
Mhm. Yep.
just hanging out. Like,
It was the size of, I guess half the size of my laptop,
yeah,
but then you unfold it and that thing's just incredible.
and off you go.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
So off you go.
Like anymore, you can like anybody can have a crazy skill set, crazy mission
Mhm.
set with that,
Yep.
and they never have to go in a building. They could clear the whole freaking thing.
You could bring the whole freaking thing down with one of those things
Yeah,
in
I mean, you
theory.
saw the video where I think it was like a real estate agent or a realtor or somebody was like looking at this industrial property with somebody, and it's like, now imagine the martial implication of that. So
Mhm.
say you're on the other side of the ridge line, fly this over, and you clear a whole building,
Yeah.
or you see
Never
where
have to stay
everybody's
put.
at, and
Yeah.
you can oh my gosh, man, like the ATAC plugins for that, like being able to plug in Blue Force tracking, like real time, like give me a freaking break, dude. Absolutely insane. Like people are hooking up repeaters to these things.
Yes.
Like, just there's so much. There's so much there. But how would you say, where like obviously these aren't going away.
No.
So what are we doing to counter this besides hiding in a hole?
So you have your basic countering of just making sure your cover concealment is very well done, so that you just can't be seen from the air. Um, you can go so far as to shoot them down with shotguns. We have, like you said, the Master Key. We have the 890s. We have all sorts of pump actions. We have semi-autos. We have the Genesis arms. There's all sorts of shotguns.
So get a
You can
shotgun.
throw like, yeah, birdshot. You can, as long as you're a decent shot with it and you've done like skeet shooting, those things are toast. Um, it can go so far as to, um, you can buy a jammer, and there are man portable jammers, and then there are vehicle ones. Um, I mean, I've even seen that. I think it was China had like an EMP gun or something, or
Goodness.
it was like a jammer gun. It was massive, massive. But like they would be at these events, and if drones were not allowed to fly at these events, then
I would shoot him down.
the authorities would be there, and then they would just they would jam the signal, and the drone would just land right there,
Right.
and it's done. It's gone. You no longer have that drone, so you could
Right.
do that option as well. I mean, there's there's plenty of ways to counteract these, and a lot of it is it's honestly being born and evolved on the battlefield of Ukraine and Russia. It's incredible. For as much as the drones have evolved, so have the counters for them. So it's in a weird sadistic way, it's very fun to watch what's going on there, but it's also terrifying because it's only a matter of time before that comes here, and it's very naive to think that it won't happen here. if it's not already. So this podcast is sponsored by Blackbeard Firestarter. Blackbeard Firestarter has been our first choice in Firestarter since they introduced their Firestarter rope years ago.
Blackbeard offers their fire starters, their fire plugs, arc lighters, ferro rods, stormproof matches, everything you need to get a fire started.
Their products are made right here in the US, wind and waterproof, have an insane burn time. They're basically dummy proof.
And help you out, Blackbeard let us cherry pick from their store everything that we want, everything that we thought you needed to get a fire started, and we call it our Hard Time Strong Men Fire Kit. On top of that, they're also offering a 15% discount on anything in their store when you enter code STRONGMEN at checkout.
We can't recommend Blackbeard enough. They stand behind their products, and so do we.
Be sure to check them out at blackbeardfire.com and on Instagram at blackbeardfire. And as always, stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned like electronic warfare, right? If you're able to send out a signal to jam, is obviously a great option. I think just understanding how these things work is the big thing, right?
Right.
So
yeah, these things can do, radio controlled. They can be GPS navigated. You can set waypoints and it'll go.
So, like you said, understanding like the electronic implications of that on the physical side, obviously, like you said, the shotguns are, obviously going to need to make a comeback. Birdshot, magnesium, whatever. But something besides shooting them down, understanding or at least having suspicion of the capability of whatever you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like if you're worried about them having night vision or thermal, then take precautions for both of those, regardless of where or when you're going, and just kind of pushing out your awareness so you're not worried about just lateral, people observing you from the same plane, from the lateral plane, but you're thinking about above. Now, what's my cover above me? What does that look like? Because that's a suspicion now. And something else, if you're in a static position or planning to be in a static position, netting.
Yes.
Right. These things are physical. They have mass, and a lot of times they're very small and can either be diverted or entangled, pretty easily if they're not too big. So, maybe make that an SOP, in certain AOs where you absolutely cannot have something messing with it, net the whole thing, because that's not going to set up a really big visual footprint, but if anything tries to fly through it, then it won't. So
right. And that's something we actually utilize here for birds.
Yes.
Like at piers and stuff with restaurants, they put up netting, and
right.
It's very successful. So it has to be successful for these drones. Like you said, they only have a certain amount of mass, unless they're massive. So it's very safe to say that netting will counteract a hunter drone like that, unless it's the tiny one that fits in your palm of your hand, which good luck.
Yeah. The only other thing I can think, and I almost don't want to mention because it'd be such a niche thing, but if you're going to try to capture a drone, or if you somehow were able to ground one, if you have like those gosh, what is it, MyCom, or what's the casualty blanket, like the aluminum, like the foil blanket, what I'm talking about?
Jesus. Yeah,
like the rescue blankets or whatever,
a Faraday cage,
right? So entrap it.
Yeah.
It'll block out anything that's trying to get out, and yay, free drone. Mylar. Thank you. I knew it had in a minute, but
yeah, took me a minute. Yeah.
We got there eventually. But that's about all I had for it, brother. Did you have anything else?
Honestly, no. Drones are a very, very scary thing as they've evolved to where they are now. So it's helpful to, as Sun Tzu said, like, know your enemy. So does not hurt to read up on these drones, to watch the news, to know what the capabilities of these things are. Because honestly,
Absolutely.
at this point in time, it's the sky's the limit. Your imagination is the only limit when it comes to these things. And some
Yeah.
people are
Well,
very, very creative.
yeah. Well, and like you said, research, YouTube Academy, you can see what these things are
Mhm.
capable of. If you have a training budget that you can flex out a little bit, buy a $50, $100 drone off Amazon, play with it a little bit so you can kind of see what, the opposition is, dealing with when they're piloting these things. It's, they're only going to get more advanced. It's only going to get easier. Like a
Right.
10-year-old can buy one of these or build one of these, in their in their room to great effect.
Yeah.
So,
At the very least, they can fly these things. So
mhm. So give the respect it deserves, and yeah, that's all I got for it.
yeah,
But
yeah. Much
guys,
like
thank
every
you
other
for
weapon.
listening. What do you say?
I was gonna say, give it the respect it deserves, much like every other weapon out there.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's like the weather, man. It's gonna rain.
It's
Bring
gonna
a
rain.
jacket.
Bring an umbrella.
But guys, that was our drone warfare episode. This is something that we don't have too much hands-on experience like as drone operators, but we understand the magnitude, the severity of what this means and what the development of this means. If you have any firsthand experience, if you have any, yeah, on either side of that, right? If you have any experience, you know, hit us up, shoot us a line, and we'll talk about it and make everybody better. Hop on the Discord. We're currently talking about uh, what techniques with lockpicking. Is that what we were just
Mhm.
talking about?
Yep. Yep.
Top of the QA, bottom of the QA, tensioning, all that good stuff. Sven, Brandon, Ethan, thank you for supporting us on the Patreon. Patreon is a great place to one get a backup of the podcast. We back up all of our episodes on the public site, but we also are throwing up the pre-shows, post-shows, and any additional stuff like the show notes, the episode images. We're also going to be having monthly check-ins, behind the scenes content come January, of course, talking about our book, upcoming book, and all of our guides and other PDF files that we're developing. So, guys, till next time, we're the Hard Time Strongman podcast. Check out the Bear Class of Man. Stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight. Check out our Discord, where we talk about all of the topics that we talk about in our conversations, but in deep dive format. We have a lot of members on there of varying skill sets, of varying proficiencies, all talking about all these topics, sharing their experiences. So join today and help us expand our knowledge base.
And check out our Patreon. Our Patreon, outside of just backing up all of our episodes for when we eventually get canceled, our patrons get access to our exclusive episodes, our pre-shows, our post-shows, our little tidbits here and there that we aren't really supposed to talk about. We're also opening up all of these exclusive episodes for people to individually purchase. So you don't have to get tied into a tier in order to get all that content. You can dip your toes in a little bit, decide you like it, then come and join us on that. We're having exclusive conversations, and along with the Discord, we are just building that community, building that skill set, that mastery, these proficiencies. And this, outside of our sponsor, is what's keeping the lights on and keeping all of this information, all these classes rolling for you guys. So make sure to check out our Patreon. And one last thing, guys, the world is better with you in it. If you're feeling suicidal or if you're in crisis, dial 988 or reach out at 988lifeline.org to get help. Someone's always on the line. So if you need a lifeline, remember 988. Stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight.